Hello, I'm your host Paul Desman, and this is Quarantine Kitchen. Today we will be preparing a 4-cheese stuffed manicotti and a braised pork sauce. Let's get started. To make our manicotti today, we'll need some, of course, manicotti noodles. We'll need pork chops. Ricotta cheese, this is our base. We need goat cheese, Parmesan cheese, mozzarella cheese. Pretty much anything with the word cheese. We'll need some pasta sauce, some garlic. This garlic's in a jar because we're in quarantine. An orange pepper, only half an onion, and not one, but 2 eggs. We're also gonna need a pan, a pot, our casserole dish. We're gonna need a bowl too.
I made this manicotti last week for the first time in my life, and it was edible. I wanted to see what would happen if I tried to make it again from memory. It was at this point, though, that I realized the only thing I did remember was that the recipe called for 1 pint of ricotta. After that, I was just dumping various cheeses into a bowl. It didn't feel like there was enough mozzarella, so I threw in a cheese blend and forgot to get a shot of it, which is why it's suddenly orange on the top of the cheese pile. I was basically throwing in everything I could find that made sense, along with, oh yeah, not 1, but 2 eggs. Then you stir it up a bit until it looks like the kind of glue that you stop a toddler from eating. That's when I suggest you toss in your basil, salt, and pepper. You don't need much of any of these ingredients, but this is Quarantine Kitchen, and we do like it heavy on the pepper around here. Then you mix it together again until it tastes like how you want, and you set it aside. Then start chopping up the veggies for the pork sauce. Dice the half onion and orange pepper, but beware of a random hand that is not yours periodically snitching some pieces off of your cutting board. Set those veggies aside and begin preparing the pork chops. I add salt and pepper to both sides of the pork, usually with a lot of pepper. Next, with the burner on high heat, I add a good drizzle of olive oil to the pan. When you put pork to pan, that's the sound of doing it right. Just sear it for a minute or so, then flip it and do it again. Then put the whole pan in the oven to cook the pork for about 10 minutes or so. At some point I had started boiling a pot of water. This is for the 10 manicotti noodles. When the water starts boiling, just drop them in. While the noodles continue to boil, take the pork chops out of the oven. Carefully remove them from the pan, letting them drip a little before setting them onto a separate plate. Then add more oil to the same pan and turn the burner back on about halfway. Throw in the diced onion, orange pepper, as much garlic as you want, and a little salt and some pepper. Then mix it all together and let it saute for a bit. Transfer the pork to a cutting board and dice that up too, again being wary of a random hand that is not yours periodically snitching some pieces as you chop. Now I add the pasta sauce to the pan with the veggies, stir it a little, adding some basil, a little more salt and pepper, followed shortly by the diced up pork. Then I mix it all together and turn down the heat. Letting the sauce simmer, it's now time to strain the noodles. Carefully drain them using a colander and transfer them onto a separate plate. Add a little bit of the sauce to the empty casserole dish and spread it around. I'm sure I heard somewhere that that's a good idea, but either way it looks pretty cool. Now here is the part that will truly test your patience and make you reconsider whether or not you actually like to cook. You have to stuff all the manicotti noodles with the cheese mixture and place them in the casserole dish. I had to shoot this using time-lapse, otherwise you'd be spending your whole day watching just this part of the video. Seriously, it takes a while. I tried spooning it in, I tried jamming it in with my fingers, I went back to the spoon and back to the fingers, again and again. Eventually I got them all stuffed with cheese, at which point I covered them in the rest of the sauce. I blanket the manicotti evenly with the pork sauce, carefully to ensure all the noodles are covered. Then I sprinkle some Parmesan cheese on top of it, followed by the magical orange cheese blend I forgot to show you earlier. I make sure it's totally covered. Cheese is the main point of this, really. Then I put it in the oven for about 45 minutes or so. I can't be sure, as I was a few glasses of wine into this process by now. I like the cheese roof to be just slightly burnt when I take it out of the oven. As you can see, this is just to my liking. I let it cool for a bit, but not for long, because I'm very hungry, so now it's time to slice it up and serve. Oh man, I am ready for all that cheese.
And that is 4 cheese stuffed manicotti and a braised pork sauce. See you next time on Quarantine Kitchen.